Hello! I'm back again, unsurprisingly. Anyway, I thought I'd do a bit of more of an impromptu video today rather than spending a few days thinking about something. I have got other things planned, but I want to talk about something that, I think everyone can kind of, it's close to their heart here. But yesterday would have been, and I say would have been, and we'll find out in a minute, would have been my dad's 60th or 61st birthday. Now, unfortunately, I lost my dad about 4 years ago. He died of cancer, and that's never pleasant. But I didn't want to make this video about so much about that sort of sad side of it. I kind of wanted to do it because sometimes I think people in the crazy world that we live in sometimes forget to just stop and think about who's in their life and who matters the most, and you know what I mean. So, I was unfortunate to lose my dad at age 22, but now I don't think about him in a sad way. I always remember him as that he would want to kick my ass into shape if I spent most of my time being upset about it. Like he probably wants me to move on with my life and do the things that I want to do. But it got me thinking that, you do see in this day and age that a lot of people, it almost comes across like, I don't know whether people stop and think about who's in their life and what's important and things like that. We live in a world where it's very stressful, for the most part. You go to work, you do your job, you come home, you try to pay your way through life, so you've got somewhere to live, so you've got food, all those kind of things. And sometimes, you don't really think about it, but it's the people around you, the people you surround yourself with, hopefully the good ones, that really make that a lot easier for you to live your life. I've always considered myself extremely lucky. First off, I live and born in England. I live in a first world country. But the people I'm surrounded with, my family and my friends, and I can't think of anyone currently that I have to deal with that's a complete tosspot. You know what I mean? It's like everyone that's in my life and everyone that I've had the pleasure of meeting and growing up with or whatever, it's I can't consider myself any more lucky than I am. I have a very good family. We're always a good laugh. We're very supporting. The friends that I grew up with since I was a very young age and still friends with now. And that's incredible to me. Most of the people I've spent my time with in school, primary school, secondary school, college, all that kind of stuff, and even more recently university. But I've made some fantastic friendships through that. But you see a lot of people on social media, in real life, complaining about a lot of things, a lot of pointless things when you put it into perspective. The friends and the family you have in your life, that they make a big difference to how you can get on with things and push forward with things. If you've got people being negative all the time and trying to, and not being that great, and it's probably going to have an impact on you, and it's probably going to make you more, annoyed about stuff, or more upset about stuff, and you don't want that. You need people. You want to surround yourself with people that are honest. Of course, you want them to be absolutely honest with you, because if you're doing something dumb, you need them to kick you back into line and say, "Look, stop this. This is stupid." But you also need people that are positive with you. They want to be around you. They want to hang out. You want to do stuff together. Whether that's going out, for a drink on the weekends, or playing games, or doing sports, or whatever you want to do with these people, or what you spend your time doing with them. You need those kind of people in your life. And I see a lot of stuff where people are complaining about such minuscule things, and I'm just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So what? You crashed your car. So what? Your phone fell down the drain. Yeah, these things are frustrating, but they're not they're not as important as the people that are in your life. The reason I bring this up is, like I said, I lost my dad when I was 22, and I haven't had him in my life for the last 4 years, and that sucks. That really sucks. If I was 30 plus, then I would understand it. I would understand not having my parent there. But at that age, or anyone who has to deal with that at a young age, or in sort of your late teens, beginning of your adulthood, that's really hard to deal with. You shouldn't have to be dealing with that at that age. But but that's life. There's nothing you can do about it. That's just sometimes it wants to take people way too soon. And like if people, it saddens me. It saddens me greatly when people say they don't get on with their parents or family members. Now, there's obviously reasons for this, but I was lucky that I get on with all my family members. Parents are great, Yeah, we have our ups and downs, and you argue and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like, it is what it is. But it just saddens me when you see that, because I have such a great relationship, and I wish that, like, if my dad was still here, like, I would still have a great relationship with him. And and I just it's just, for me, it's like when I see people and they've had issues or whatever, I'm just like, when you get old enough, you will need to, like, hopefully sort those issues out if you can, and tell them that you value them for your life. I think that's the most important thing I want to get from this. Is sometimes it's worth just saying to friends, family, whoever, like, just a small comment, just like, you know what, I value you for the years and years of support you've given me, or the laughs and stuff like that, because you really never know, like, they could be gone the next day just like that. And I'm quite the optimist. I don't know how to think like that, but it happens. And I definitely think that people should make, just maybe once every 6 months, just turn to your friend or your family. Just, you know what, I really appreciate the support and the laughs, and just thanks for being you. And I think if we saw more of that happening and less of the having issues with technology or material things, then I think the world would just be a little bit of a better place. Something to think about anyway. That's basically what I wanted to talk about today. Just something that kind of hit home with me and the sort of time of year it is, and whatnot. But I will be back very shortly. I have some more videos coming this way soon. I have some, let's say, quite divisive ones, I think, but I'll save those for another time. I'll see you later.